Cosmo. That specter's seen a corpse and it wants it for its own. Run, Red!
Did we miss a few?
You shouldn't stay in there.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk about Banishers Ghost of New Eden. This game is a AA game developed by Don't Nod, the makers behind Life is Strange, Tell Me Why, things like that. So more of like story, narrative-driven games with not a whole lot of gameplay, really. It's more of just walking around, things like that. They also have done games like Vampire, however you pronounce it. I played a little bit of it. Wasn't a huge fan, but I see the essence of both of those games in Banishers. And so I just want to come to the channel and talk to you guys about it a little bit and give my thoughts. This one kind of sneaked up on me. I wasn't really excited for this. I wasn't really expecting myself to buy it day one, but I did. I saw some gameplay, I saw some story, and I was like, okay, this looks like something that I definitely would check out, especially while I'm waiting for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I was like, whatever. I bought it, and now I want to talk about it. So thank you guys for coming to the channel. As always, if you wouldn't mind, if you like this video, liking it, and subbing to the channel for more content like this. And with that being said, let's talk about Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. So I'm roughly 10 hours into it, so I'm not super far, but I think I have a pretty clean grasp of the world and the game and the gameplay as a whole, and I figured now was the time to really give my first opening thoughts. I'm sure I'll have some gameplay up on the screen here. Let me just give you a short, do I like the game or do I not like the game? I actually really like the game. I like it a lot. I think this game has really great atmosphere. It has a very dark, spooky kind of feel to it. It's a lot of haunted woods. You see a lot of your settings is in the woods. Kind of reminds me of like Resident Evil 4 a little bit with the wooded areas, especially. So this game bleeds atmosphere. And you know me, if you're not new to the channel, you know atmosphere means a lot to me in a game. I love a darker atmosphere, and this is almost perfect in that regard. So just to get into the story a little bit, the game starts you off with you're seeing the game through the eyes of these two Banishers. Banishers are essentially witchers of this universe. They rid the world of ghosts and spirits because they believe the living lives, the dead dies. You know, something like that. I think that's like their motto. I don't remember. I know it sounds a bit more poetic when they say it. But their job is just to rid the world of spirits, because essentially spirits feed off the essence of the world. So their job is to get rid of the spirits so the world can flourish and people can still live freely, if that makes sense. So the game starts you out looking through the eyes of these two Banishers. One's name is Red McGrath. The other one's Altea. I don't really remember her last name. They're two lovers. They're together. And obviously, this isn't really a spoiler, but I know they showed this in the trailer. Altea dies, and she turns into a spirit. And so the whole goal of the game is, do you banish her spirit? Do you ascend her spirit? Or do you try to bring Altea back to the land of the living? And that's pretty much the premise of the game. And obviously, you get to make choices, and every decision you make throughout the story affects the ultimate end, right? I don't know how many endings this game has, but obviously, depending on what you do most of during the story, it kind of affects her story. It affects, like, okay, you know, is she going to be banished? Banished meaning kind of like the spirit no more. Like you're completely killing and destroying the spirit where it can't move on to the next life. Ascending, I think it says for itself, meaning the spirit goes on to whatever, whether it be heaven or, you know, whatever. I think this game has a lot of biblical references in it. So I don't know if I would say maybe they move on to heaven, but it would make sense if that was the case. And then you just have, there's a resurrection spell that the two main characters are also working on to maybe see if they can bring Altea back to the land of the living. And so that's the story. And it's really, really interesting, man. It's a good concept, and I didn't really know how they pull this off, but so far I'm digging it, man. I love the relationship between Red McGrath. I think they're such Red McGrath and Altia. They're really good characters, and they have really great dialogue. And oh my God, the voice acting here, man. The performances between these guys, between these actors, man. I mean, I don't know if they're doing motion capture too. I'm assuming they do that as well. It surprised me just how good the performances are here. Not that I think they're bad. I mean, if you look at games like Life is Strange and Vampire, I mean, these are good, good thematic games, right? But I mean, I just didn't expect this level. This is almost like Sony first party voice acting here, and I really enjoy it. So a lot of the game you're playing is Red McGrath, and he's essentially like an apprentice to Altia. Even though they're lovers, he's kind of Red is more of an apprentice, and so he has to take on the world as a Banisher for once by himself. Now you still have the aid of Altia. She's still there. She's still helping you, kind of helping you sway and make decisions. She also helps you in combat. Her combat is more brawler heavy. Like she uses more of like hands. She's got, obviously as the game goes on, you get more magic abilities that she can do. And then you have Red, who's more of like the melee focus with your swords, and then he also has a rifle as well. And it's a lot of fun, man. To piece all that together, to switch back and forth. Red is more of like the physical, damage doer. Like as far as like if there's an enemy that's can take more physical damage, you would play as him. And then if you're fighting more of a spirit, like something that it's really harder to hit with a sword, you switch to her, Altia, and it's cool to switch back and forth. And honestly, when you can get the combos down right, it's really smooth gameplay. I know it, honestly, you might be looking at some of the gameplay on screen here. Actually, matter of fact, Jan from my co-host of the Deadhead podcast, he saw some gameplay and he thought on this week's most recent episode, I brought up Banishers and I talked about it a little bit there. By the way, check out that episode if you haven't already. But Jan was expecting me to really bitch about the game because the gameplay, if you're looking at it, it's going to look a little choppy. This is not super smooth combat. It's not. You can tell that this studio is just kind of dipping their toes into this world of high intense kind of combat. But when the combat works, man, it works really, really well. However, there are some things that don't work really, really well. And one of the things is I think this game is not greatly optimized for PS5. So I'm playing on PS5. I should have said that at the beginning of the video. It is not optimized that well. The game looks fantastic on PS5. Like I said, I'm sure you're seeing some of the gameplay, and you're probably thinking, well, damn, that looks pretty good to me. It does, but it's super stuttery at times, and even in times when it's not even a very intense situation, there's stutters. I'm talking about frames that definitely drop down to like the 20s. And sometimes it can kind of break the game. It's almost like I don't even really want to play it because everything else is so good about this game. I don't want my experience being pulled back because of the bad performance, if that makes sense. It's kind of like with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I love that game. Honestly, it's one of my favorite games that came out last year. I love the game. I love the customization of Cal. I love the world. Star Wars feels so rich in that game as a whole. But it just sucks because the performance was so bad at launch. I still enjoyed the game. And I actually, matter of fact, I beat it and almost platinumed the game before it got all the recent patches that it has now. I think I haven't really played it in a while, but I know it's a better game than it was before. It might not be fixed, but it's better. But the performance really killed the experience, and I wish sometimes I would wait. And that's sometimes when you play games at launch, sometimes you have to deal with that. Here's the same thing, man. I would say, like, because of the performance issues alone, it's really hard for me to recommend spending $60 on a game that has performance issues. Now, it's not bad. It's definitely playable. You can get through it, and I don't think it's really made for me because I'm so into the story and I'm so into these characters. It hasn't really hurt me too bad, but I feel like I had to say that in this, that the performance on PS5 could be better. I don't know how PC is. I imagine PC is better. But on PS5, it can be a rough experience at times. Like it just is. And like I said, in moments that it's not even high octane action, it's just me walking through a little cabin or something. It's like really my frames start to drop. So I don't, again, I just didn't want to make this video about bringing that up. But yeah, man, like everything else, dude, I enjoy this game so much. I mean, the side content, I haven't really even touched that. There's a lot of side quests in this game. A good amount. Where I'm at in the story, I got some here and there, but I mean, it's not like an overabundance. But all these side quests, these haunts, is what I think what they call them. They're very well thought out. They have a lot of extra story to them, a lot of good investigations, and good boss fights, good fights that keep you intrigued. So while even if the detective stuff is not really your cup of tea, when you get to the combat sections, it makes it even more the worthwhile when you get to that point. So I think I've done like 3 haunts, and every single one of them have been intriguing. I've been interested, and you always have to make a big decision at the end of each one of these encounters. And it's usually the same type of decision. You either can banish the spirit that's haunting, you can ascend the spirit that's haunting, or you can blame someone of the living as to why the spirit is the way they are. And if you blame, you're essentially killing the living to give essence to Altia, and that's how she feeds. She feeds off of people's essence, just much like all the other spirits of this world. And obviously, that's a tough decision to make. However, if you want to bring Altia back to life, she has to feed on the essence of others. So it's kind of like it's a tough decision because you're playing judge, jury, and executioner, but then also too you're trying to make a decision to bring Altia back to life so you can live with her and live a long life with her in the living, right? So that's what I like about it, and I feel like right now I've been making a lot of I've been banishing a lot of people. I think I've only sent one person. I think I've only banished. I mean, I've blamed like one person. I think I've banished like one other spirit, and I just want to see how that would go, see how her interaction would be. But she was like super cool about it because, but anyway, like I don't want to get too far into it without spoiling the game, but yeah, like it's a good experience, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of cramming here. There are some things that definitely make it feel like, okay, yep, this game is definitely double A. It's not one of these big budget AAA games. The music is very repetitive. It's got great music in this game. This music is great, and I could tell you, especially like let's say when you boot up your PS5 and you land on the game before you hit X to start playing it. Just that theme is beautiful. I've literally sat there on my PS5, like scrolling through my phone and been listening to the music because the music is great. But there's parts of like, especially when you're making a big decision, whether you want to blame, banish, or ascend a spirit or someone, it kind of has a repetitive nature to it. Like the same track, you'll hear the track end just to hear it start up again. It's not like a very smooth transition, if that makes sense. Like when you're listening to like an audio. And like, let's say for instance, if you're listening to like music on your phone and you have a song play and it'll stop, like you'll hear a dead stop and then the next song plays. That's kind of what it does, but only it repeats the same song over and over again until you make the decision. It's just stuff like that I've noticed. It's not really bad, but just things to look out for. But yeah, I think that's really all I got to say about it, man. I do. Do I think you should give it a shot? I mean, listen, I know we're living in today's economy, so like money is hard for everybody. But if you got the extra cash, I definitely recommend it. I don't think you could go wrong with this game. I think that if you're looking for a good story, you're looking for pretty decent combat. Maybe not to the point of like God of War Ragnarok, but pretty decent combat with some really deep emotional moments in the story. A dark world. An interesting world with spirits and what why Banishers are trying to get rid of him in the first place. If you like that kind of stuff, then I recommend it. But at the same time, it does have performance issues. So if you wait for a $20 price drop, I don't think that's a big deal either. But it is a good game, and I hope this game gets support because I would love to see what they do with this in the future if the rest of the game turns out to be as good as the first 10 hours I've put into it. So anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts if you've been playing Banishers. Yeah. I'll see you in the next video. And with that being said, see you in the next one. Stay dead, my friends.